Hello, welcome back to Hazel Jane Tarot. And as you can see from the video title, today is going to be a little bit of a haul video of the things I got in Glastonbury. So we've got my bucket of tea ready to go. And the intention of today's video is not really to advertise these products to you, although there might be some things you might fancy in what I'm showing here. It's more to share with you just my excitement and all of the things that I discovered in Glastonbury. If you're interested in seeing a bit more of what it was actually like in Glastonbury town itself, and that is, I was at the town, not the festival. I've had to keep clarifying that for my friends. When I say I went to Glastonbury, like, oh, you were at the festival. No. I think the people watching this video, you're more likely to think, oh, you went to the town of Glastonbury. It was the UK Tarot Meetup. So it was organised by Simon over at the Hermit's Cave. And there were about 10 of us that met up on the Saturday and on the Sunday again. And we did a lot of different things. Like we just met up and hung out and chatted and got to know each other and had nice meals. But we also... and we had a lot of time walking around the shops, which are many and wonderful in Glastonbury. They have, whereas here in Ireland, you know, an average town might have one little shop that sells, you know, a handful of tarot decks, a few crystals, one shop like that in the whole town. In Glastonbury, the whole entire high street is filled with, you know, magical apothecaries that sell hundreds of different types of herbs, you know, bookshops with loads of different books for sale, secondhand books, new books, decks. You know, there's just so much. Anyway, I'll tell you a bit more about that as I'm going through. But it was, when I say it was you know, I was shopping a lot. It was just a really special experience because that kind of shopping isn't available in most towns. But it's also a very spiritual town. And Glastonbury has the Glastonbury Tor and the Chalice Well, and we visited both of those places on the Sunday. And there's also Glastonbury Abbey, in which allegedly has the grave of King Arthur in the ruins, which I visited on the Sunday evening as well. So I was there from Friday to Monday, had a wonderful time. If you'd like to see a bit more about that, if you head over to my Instagram, which is at Hazel Jane Tarot, all one word, and I'll see if I can link it below. I did post some photos of some of the things that we did or some of the places that I went, and some photos of the amazing accommodation that I stayed in at the Covenstead. So you can check that out on my Instagram. And if you want to see a bit more, Simon did a live from the top of Glastonbury Tor, and he did a vlog of his weekend trip. So I appear at about 20 minutes into that when they met up as a group. So if you want to see a little bit of what we did together and actually see some video footage of the Chalice Well and, you know, the mists around the bottom of the Tor and all that kind of amazing stuff, you can see that on Simon's vlog. So I will link those two videos below if you want to go and check them out. So for the rest of this video, what we're going to be doing is a little show and tell of all the lovely things that I got when I was in Glastonbury. And I'm going to put my tea away in case I spill it on my stuff. I'm going to put it over to the side here. So I suppose the first two things I'll show you are the things that didn't cost very much at all. So what you can see here, if this camera will focus, so the little bottle you can see has the Chalice Well written on it. So these little glass bottles were able to buy, they're just a couple of pounds at the Chalice Well. And at the Chalice Well, the garden is like a tiered garden, and there's various stages to the way the water flows through the garden. There are places where you can put your feet in and paddle. There are places to sit in contemplation, and there's a place where you can fill a little bottle or you can drink the water. And so I filled this bottle at the little Lion's Head fountain, where you're able to get the drinkable water. And then I got a second bottle and filled this one from the White Spring. Now the White Spring is currently closed to visitors. You can't get in, but there is a tap flowing constantly outside the actual kind of building of the which encloses the White Spring, and you're able to fill, like, you know, just drinking water or whatever from there. So I put a little mark on the lid so I could tell the difference between the two bottles, and I was so happy that the bottles for sale, they're little glass bottles, were less than 100 mils. So I was able to get them in, you know, like to travel by air, you have to put like your liquids in a little 1 litre max Ziploc bag. So before I left Glastonbury, I had to ditch my travel shampoo and conditioner so that I could fit in my Chalice Well and White Spring water. But it was lovely to be able to bring those home, because I thought with the liquids restrictions I might not be able to bring them home at all. But so that's a very special souvenir, and something that I'm going to think about how I'm going to use those waters. They're drinkable at the moment, but obviously you know, that those were filled on Sunday, so they're very soon going to be not safe to drink and just going to be used for other purposes. So that was my spring water. Now, when some of you might remember that if you've watched one of my other videos recently, that I had bought an oracle deck called the Transcendent Journeys Oracle by Cheryl Yambach Rose, and I wasn't too sure what I thought of it, but I did really like the art style. And one of the first places that I visited in Glastonbury was the Goddess Temple shop. So in Glastonbury, they have there's a goddess temple that's dedicated to the Lady of Avalon, and there's a little shop attached to that has loads of books and decks and other things that are all associated with not just the Lady of Avalon, but goddesses more generally as well. And they had a selection of decks, about 10, and one of them was this Cheryl Yambach Rose deck, Through the Eyes of the Soul. What I had, when I moved into my accommodation, when I arrived on the Friday, I noticed straight away that there was lots of kind of art framed around the walls, which you can see if you look at the photos on my Instagram. And one of the pictures was a Cheryl Yambach Rose painting. I recognised the art style and the eyes immediately. And then when I was in the Goddess gift shop, I saw this deck sitting, and what they had in that shop, which was really amazing, is you had the boxes all sitting, and then you had a really well-worn, well-looked through copy of the deck itself that you could just look through and decide whether you wanted to buy that deck. So the deck was sitting in front of the box, and I turned over the top card, and the top card that was sitting was the painting that was in my room in the B&B. And that just seemed like such a coincidence that it was exactly, I mean, out of the whole deck, the one that was shuffled, and it's not the last card in the deck, the one that just happened to be on the top was the picture that was in my room, my hotel room. So that just kind of swung it for me, and I decided to purchase the Cheryl Yambach Rose Through the Eyes of the Soul. Now, I think this might be a reprint of this deck, because I noticed it in another shop available in a different size, like a more of a longer card with borders, and this is a borderless deck. I'm not going to show you the whole deck now, but I just wanted to share the little story about finding it, because it just was kind of one of those synchronistic moments where it was the same picture. So I thought, even though I'm still not 100% sure about the kind of the themes of her decks, I do really like the art, and it just seemed to be calling to me, so I got it. And then later on the Saturday, I was sitting in a coffee shop with some of the other readers who'd arrived for the meetup, and I was kind of sitting looking, I could see through an open doorway into a bookshop, and on a display shelf at eye level, looking at me, was this book, this face. And I was like, oh, look, there's Cheryl Yambach Rose again. Now, it's not a coincidence that her work was around in Glastonbury, because I think she has spent a lot of time, or maybe is even from Glastonbury originally. But here was this book sitting looking at me. And so I went in to have a little look at it. And sure enough, it's Art Through the Eyes of the Soul, which is like a companion book to... It's not a companion book to the deck. I think the deck was published completely separately. And I noticed now, just looking, that deck I have is 2021 publication. So that must be just out. But I think it is a reprint of an older deck, because this book is 2010. And a lot of the paintings that are in this book are also in the deck, Through the Eyes of the Soul. So I But when I picked up the book, it was only £6 because it's secondhand, and it's also signed by the artist. So as you can see, like it's starting to fall apart a little bit because it is quite an old book. But I haven't read any of it yet. I haven't. That looks like Barack Obama. I haven't really looked at it yet at all. I haven't read any of the book yet. But I'm really looking forward to you reading this alongside, starting to get to know the deck. Oh, there's the Chalice Well at Glastonbury and Glastonbury Tour. So yeah, so I've ended up, after having one of her decks and not being quite sure how I felt about it, I now have 2 of her decks and a signed book. So that kind of was an interesting little journey in picking those things up. Now, the rest of the things there's maybe not as much to say about, but one of the things I really noticed in Glastonbury is it has a very feminine energy, and maybe that's because I spent quite a bit of time in the Goddess Temple, sitting in the Goddess Temple and the paintings and the depictions of Goddess and of the Lady of Avalon are just really beautiful. And then, of course, the Chalice Well has an incredibly peaceful, flowing, lovely feminine energy as well. And I had left my little girl, who, as you might have heard me talking about her before, she's 3, just turned at the end of May. So she's still quite young, and it was one of the first times I've been away from her in a long time. So I sort of found myself thinking about and just coming across books that were just focused around those sorts of themes. So I picked up this book, and I had no prior knowledge about this book. It's called Mother Love, The Mystical and Psychic Bond That Shapes Our Lives, by Cassandra Eason. So it's a big hardback book. It was only a £5 secondhand, and you know, there's lots of different chapters on different themes and so on about our relationships with our own mothers, as well as you know, being a mother. So I thought that would be a really interesting one to dive into, and I got that in The Speaking Tree. There's a lovely little bookshop that has a mix of new and secondhand books, and in the same shop I also bought this book. This is Motherhood, which is more of a, not as so much of a spiritual book, more kind of a practical book, like about coping with being a mum, and I think particularly to as a mum to a small child, you know, about handling bedtimes and coping without support and so on. And this was only £4, so again, quite a substantial book, and lots to read there. So and the same day I also picked up this book, Jailbreaking the Goddess by Lasara Firefox Allen. And what seemed really interesting in this book, it's described as a radical revisioning of feminist spirituality. And again, I haven't read beyond like just the contents and so on to decide to buy it. But what they're doing here is moving beyond a biological imagining of Goddess as maiden, mother, and crone. So, you know, where that sort of limits you to things like thinking of the Goddess as pre-fertility, and then fertility, and then post-fertility. And obviously that doesn't fit for everyone, and you know, having the idea of Goddess and divine feminine being so centered on reproduction doesn't, you know, that doesn't work. It's kind of limiting, and I really, even I'm a woman who has had a baby, that still I find a very limiting definition. So this book is looking at like women. I think they've come up with like 5 different archetypes to try to think of Goddess, to do with power and to do with community, creativity, different sort of ways of looking at it. As I say, I haven't read it yet, but it looks interesting. I don't know if it's all going to resonate, but it certainly looks like a really interesting way of rethinking the maiden, mother, crone in a different, more expansive, more inclusive way. So I picked that up the first day as well. I was already thinking my bag's going to be quite heavy leaving Glastonbury. And I bought this journal as well. Now, this is a range of journals that are published by Blue Angel, and I think this one, it says Autumn Sky is the artist, and I believe the art in this is from the Sacred Rebels Oracle deck, which is a deck that I don't have. So it's just a lined journal, And I've never wanted the Sacred Rebels Oracle. I've never thought that I would resonate with that deck. And I thought some of the images were a bit strange, actually, when I've looked at walkthroughs. But when I looked at this book, the prints, the lovely big large images, it just really, really called to me. And so I got this, and I restrained myself, and I didn't buy any more from this range of journals because there's so many beautiful journals with different art. But I thought, I've already one beautiful blank journal calling for me to use it was enough. So I don't know what I'm going to use this yet for, but it is lovely, and that is Autumn Sky was the artist on that one. And the other book that I bought, I got at the Chalice Well gift shop, and I just stumbled across this, Bridget's Healing, Ireland's Celtic Medicine Traditions by Gina McGarry. I know nothing about this writer. I have no, I don't know how, what her background is or anything like that. But as you'll know if you've watched any of my other videos, I'm very interested in exploring, Irish and traditional sort of folk spirituality and so on. And Bridget in particular is one of the goddesses that really speaks to me. And this book seems to have like old folk remedies for different ailments and stuff like that. So again, I haven't read it yet, but I thought it looked really interesting, so I picked that up. And that is all the books. I really couldn't have fitted any more in my hand luggage on the flight anyway. So what else? I also picked up some art, like in the form of little prints and postcards and things. So I really love when I've seen other people have had the Wendy Andrews Goddess wall hangings, and they had some of those for sale in the Goddess shop. But those wall hangings are like £50 each. And then up in the Goddess Temple itself, they had a little rack of postcards and art. And they had these like little greeting cards. And they were only £2.20 each. And they display the wall hangings and change in the Goddess Temple and change them for each Sabbath. And these are the ones that they use. And I just thought it would be lovely to pick up a full set and have them for my own use in however I decide to display them. I'm actually considering trying to get a frame that'll fit and, putting it somewhere in the living space in my house and rotating it out each Sabbath. But so this is the one for Lammas or for Lunasa. And then this is the one for the autumn equinox. And then for Sion, I love that. And then for the Yule winter equinox. And then Bridget for Emilk. And then the spring equinox, I think. And then we have Bealtaine for May Day, and then for the summer equinox. So that's what they had in the Goddess Temple and what they use. I don't know which goddesses are particularly supposed to be depicted in each of these. I'll have to maybe do a bit more looking around at Wendy Andrews' website or something to see if I can figure out, is there a specific goddess being depicted in each one, or is it just like a kind of overall energy of the season? Because the titles are more things like, water goddess and earth goddess and so on. But because the priest of Avalon that I've talked to in the Goddess Temple told me that those were the ones that they use and display year round and rotate on the Sabbaths, I thought it would be nice to have a set. So while the expensive wall hangings would be lovely to have, I think Brian Cormac Carr has them because you see them in the backgrounds of his videos. But I thought the little postcards would be a nice thing to have. And also from the Goddess Temple shop, I picked up this art print. So this is a print of the enormous oil painting that is the central focus in the Goddess Temple at the moment. They have other paintings. Actually, there you can see in the little business card, that's another enormous oil painting, I think by the same artist, that's displayed off to the side in the Goddess Temple. But this is the one that's currently in the central display with like there's candles in front of it and seasonal, flowers and, different things from the outdoors that have been brought in. It's really beautiful and very peaceful place and beautiful display. And I just love the painting and how the Lady of Avalon, or you could even maybe see it as Gaia, or Danu in Ireland is the earth, the goddess of the earth. How she's the hill, you know, she is the hill. And there's your little toe coming out in the water at the bottom. And the animals and the plants that you can see, I just loved it. So I don't know what I'm going to do with this yet, but I just picked up the wee print to take home. And the other thing from the Goddess Temple, you can tell I spent a lot of time in the Goddess Temple, and I was in and out of the, oh, I've ripped the paper. Ah well, it's coming out now anyway. I spent a lot of time in and out of the Goddess Temple shop as well. So the other thing that I bought was this, and this again is a copy of something that they have in the Goddess Temple, and it's a very large, big wooden wheel. So let me see if I can show you without taking it out of the plastic. So they rotate, so that again is Lunasa is on display there. So they rotate the goddess for each of the Sabbats, and then all what you see in the little windows changes as it rotates, you know. So there's the Sion one, amazing. So you can see the scythe and the Sheila gig, and so there's a little prayer to the Lady of Avalon at the bottom, and then on the back, when you turn it for each season, for each new Sabbath, there's a little prayer on the back for each of the Sabbats. So I thought that was a beautiful thing. I don't know exactly where I'm going to put it, but I imagine this will become kind of central in an altar space. So yeah, that's the other thing I got from the Goddess Temple. And then when I was at the Chalice Well, I picked up a couple of postcards as well. That's the little Virgin and Child statue that's at one of the resting places in the Chalice Well. And this is a close-up photo of the very female fountain set up at the sort of bottom garden in the Chalice Well. There's a big pool beneath that fountain. I think I've got a more zoomed out photo of that on my Instagram actually. And then this little card is a beautiful another painting of the Lady of Avalon over the Chalice Well, and then creating like the grail from her body, and then you have the Tor in the background. So I just thought it was lovely. Some of the people who were with us, the other people in the group, got larger art prints of this image, but I got a little card of it just to have a smaller image. And again, don't know what I'm going to do with those yet. And then what else? Oh, a fun thing. After having seen Simon's haul video, which I was sitting watching in my hotel room on Sunday night after he got home, I noticed he'd bought this fabulous tarot themed wrapping paper. And it was really cheap. It was 50p a sheet, and they're really big sheets. So I got these. That's the Triple Goddess. It reminded me of the Triple Goddess Tarot. I think it's Lo Scarabeo. Yeah, like you can see the logo. It's Lo Scarabeo decks. So like I don't have the Marseille Cat Tarot, or I'm not sure which Lo Scarabeo kind of standard deck this is. But I thought it was really cool. Some tarot wrapping paper and Triple Goddess wrapping paper. I might back books with it. I might wrap Christmas presents with it. I'm not sure yet what I'm going to do with the paper, but I thought it was a nice thing. So I went and got it on the Monday before I left. A few other little bits and pieces. There's a fantastic shop in Glastonbury called Sons of Asgard, and the two men that run it have created all of these. Like there's a bit of an apothecary where you can buy herbs and ingredients, but they've also like pre-made all of these different sprays and oils and incenses and all different things that are potentially for magical working, or you know, to mark the different seasons and Sabbats and so on. And just being that Imbolc and Bridget is where I have a personal connection, I picked up the magical spray for Imbolc, and the smell of this is amazing. I'm very tempted now you can order by mail order from the shop. I'm very tempted to look into getting some of what they've created to mark the other Sabbats for some of the ones that are coming sooner, like like Mabon and Samhain and so on. I might be looking into that, but in the meantime, it smells amazing. Whatever they don't have listed on the bottle exactly, what's in it, but they include essential oils, floral waters, plant extracts, natural infusions, and crystal essences. So they've not given away their recipe, what they use for each, but everything seems to be done very intentionally, and it's in like this little glass spray. So that's I'll try to leave a link to Sons of Asgard below, because it seems like a really nice business, and the guys who were running it were really, really nice and friendly. So a couple of crystals that I picked up. This is one that I had actually been looking for, rhodonite, and I got this lovely big piece of rhodonite in a little shop, and it wasn't that expensive. I saw much smaller pieces for much more money in other shops. So crystals did seem to be very widely varying in price in Glastonbury, depending on which shop you were in. The shop I got this in didn't have a lot of crystals. It wasn't like a crystal shop. It just had a few, and this was just exactly what I was looking for. So that was really nice. I also picked up there was a shop called Celestial, which it was a crystal shop. It sold just loads of crystals. So I picked up a few little quartz points in that shop, because that's something that I didn't have. Like, I have a tendency sometimes to, when I see a crystal, I'll buy like a big crystal, and then I don't have any of the little pieces to make like a crystal grid or something like that. So I thought I'd get a few quartz points when I had the chance. And then this one is a little piece of fossilized wood that I got on a second visit to the same shop. And I think in the same shop, it was a very good crystal shop. There was so much in it. This is a piece of like a little red tiger's eye palm stone that I just kind of fancied, and then looked up the meaning of when I got home. So like the fossilized wood, the quartz points, the rhodonite, those were things that I was looking for, because I had already looked into like a particular thing that I wanted a crystal for. Whereas the red tiger's eye was more, I liked the look of it and I brought it home and then had to look up what the meaning of it was. So, but I think going forward, I want to be more intentional in how I purchase crystals. I think it's more useful to look, because I have a number of crystal books, to look up what is the thing that you want a crystal to help with. What is the issue you want a crystal to help with? And then find that crystal. And when you're somewhere like Glastonbury, where you literally are surrounded by beautiful stones, it is a bit overwhelming, some of the shops. And having a particular stone that I was looking for did help to focus me to not pick up loads of other like just beautiful big chunks of stone that I really didn't need to get. And just before I left Glastonbury, I did on the last day pick up this deck, which is the Goddess Love Oracle by Wendy Andrew. So who had already picked up the goddess, kind of seasonal goddess cards. This is really easily available rock pool deck, and it hadn't really called to me before, but I looked through the open deck in the shop and I liked the seasonal quality of the images in this deck, and there is an image of a breastfeeding mother in this deck, which really spoke to me. You don't see it very often, and when I do see that sort of positive depictions, it always sort of draws me in. So I've not even unwrapped it. As you can see, it's still in the plastic, but that is the second deck that I got. So I only bought two decks, the Goddess Love Oracle and the Through the Eyes of the Soul Oracle were the two. And then the last thing I'm going to show you is couldn't come home without gifts. Oh, oops. Sorry. In fact, I've cut just one other thing I'd forgotten about. I did get this bell just to hang inside the door in one of the little shops as well. And then I couldn't come home without gifts. So for my partner who I went to, there's a shop called Midgard where the owner creates, he does a lot of wooden sort of Norse themed wooden products of various kinds. Like he makes his own runes and just different kinds of art and so on. I picked up this wristband bracelet for my partner and he absolutely loves it. So that was a good choice. And my daughter, because she's only 3, it was a little bit harder. So there was a little toy shop and I just went in there and I bought her a Lottie doll. So I don't know if you're familiar with Lottie, but Lottie it's like a little posable doll that's kind of like a Barbie, but like a child, not a big modelly woman as Barbie is. And so my little girl got a Lottie that likes to splash in muddy puddles. So maybe when she's a little older, her gifts might get a bit more woo-woo, but for now, as she's only 3, that seemed like a suitable gift. So that is, wow, 30 minutes in. If you're still with me, thank you for watching. That is my Glastonbury haul. And yes, I did, as they say in Ireland, I did lose the run of myself a little bit in the shops, you know. I did get a lot of things and I've really treated myself. It's my birthday this month and I won't be buying myself any more treats after this. The other thing I did get, and I've not shown you, although you can see I'm wearing, the dress I'm wearing today is one that I got in Glastonbury. It's a velvet Linda Ravenscroft design. So the Linda Ravenscroft sort of fairy shop, they have Linda Ravenscroft prints on various things. And while I wouldn't be into sort of framed fairy art or her oracle deck or tarot deck's not really up my street really, but I thought on the fabric on the dress it was lovely. And I also picked up a couple of tops and another dress and a coat, because the kind of colourful clothing that you can get in the clothes shops in Glastonbury, again, is not easy to get here. So I thought I would get a few things while I was there. So I actually, the clothes shopping was a much bigger part of my shopping while I was there than I had ever anticipated that it would be. But I've got some nice things to see me through the autumn and I'm sure they'll last for years. So yes, I did go a bit mad and I did spend a lot of money, and I hope you don't find this video as me showing off. I really did enjoy myself in Glastonbury and it was a really special treat. I'm sure I won't be back for years, and I have enough reading material and other things to work with to last me for the years between now and when I do get back to Glastonbury. So as I say, if you want to see a bit more of what we were actually up to at the Tarot Meetup and to see some photos, head over to Simon at the Hermit's Cave to look at his vlog, or head over to my Instagram and you can see some of my photos. But in the meantime, thanks for watching, yeah, I maybe will see you at a tarot meetup sometime, some year in the future. Bye.